Well, very interesting. This weekend is the Nerd Prom here in Washington, which is the cringiest event possible, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Dr. Fauci was set to attend the dinner as a guest of ABC News. Somebody can riddle that for me in terms of how that's ethical, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let's put this up there on the screen. Turns out Dr. Fauci is backing out of the White House Correspondents' Dinner over COVID concerns. He says that because of his personal individual assessment of his own risk, he will not be attending the dinner. So this is sparking.
This dude is a lot older than people
to be fair,
realize.
The guy's like 80 years old.
Looks good for his age. How old is he again?
I think he's 80. But look, I'm not criticizing the
81.
Fauci for doing 81. There you go. I was close to it. Almost just a little bit older only than our president. But it has raised a question then of why is the president not going to be wearing a mask? Why is he attending? Is he going in violation then of Dr. Fauci? And the White House Correspondents' Dinner finds itself in a hilarious place where they're like, well, we're not going to be requiring masks in there. And then the Biden administration and the top officials there will be attending the dinner. And so actually, after we cut this segment, this just happened, Pete Buttigieg was on Fox News last night, asked exactly. So why exactly is the White House and you and all public officials who are attending the dinner not required to wear masks? And you guys are going to do that, but you're also in court trying to force people on airplanes to wear masks? Here's what he says, quote, "Most of us understand the difference between a hotel ballroom and an airplane, Secretary of Transportation." Well, that's actually worth parsing because in both instances, people will not be wearing masks when they're eating, Krystal, at the dinner. Ergo, making it irrelevant as to whether the mask is worn in the first place, either in the hotel ballroom or on the airplane. Just completely ridiculous policy. So number one, obviously, Fauci being a COVID Karen is kind of hilarious, but also he's 81 years old, so I respect his decision. But the Buttigieg part of this really bugs me. Just the complete hypocrisy.
Maybe he's just using COVID as an excuse to not have to go to this.
Yeah, I wish we could use that excuse. We're like, oh, we're not going because of COVID.
Well, I mean, we didn't get invited.
Yeah, first of all, we didn't get invited. There's no way that would happen. Nor would I ever pay.
Did you go to it?
I was supposed to attend. My friend's wedding was on the same day, and I was like, I'm not going to skip my friend's wedding.
I went to it.
Yeah.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And it really is as kind of awful of a scene as you think. Mm-hmm. It's like, all these social climbers, like all the media class.
Oh yeah, Kim Kardashian's
trying to be
coming.
Seen with the right people. All the media outlets, they try to invite like some cool celebrity, and all of these like political types who haven't been around a lot of celebrities sort of freak out about that.
100%.
And
it
is a whole thing. I did this is super cringe that I'm even owning up to this, but I did like a red carpet coverage thing.
Right, but that's where you talked to
MSNBC.
Trump. That's why it was important.
And I did end up, it was before Trump, it was when he was running for president, and I ended up like interviewing him on the red carpet with Melania. Mm-hmm. And so it was interesting because that was actually my only one-on-one interaction with him. And I was at MSNBC at the time. He clearly like watched it all the time, knew me, knew my co-host, knew what our whole energy and what the show was all about. And then when I asked him, because at the time he was like, had just gotten off the whole, like, I'm going to send my own team of investigators down to Hawaii and figure out what's going on with the president. So I asked him, I was like, oh, so did you ever find the president's birth certificate down in Hawaii? And he's like, that's the wrong question, Krystal. And then that was the end of the interview. But, at the time, I felt sort of embarrassed that I even interviewed him and like took his presidential thing seriously. And then, of course, we know what happened. But yeah, that was probably my most notable White House Correspondents' Dinner thing. Otherwise, it really is just this uncomfortable people who are way too full of themselves, who are like climbers trying to throw themselves at like news executives to get a job or get noticed or whatever, and no one paying attention to the scholarships that is supposed to really be about. So
yeah,
it's basically the vibe.
The whole event is just so entirely cringe, but look,
and then there's a whole thing too about what after parties you get invited to.
Yes, of course,
and, like,
the Vanity
cool
Fair
kids
party.
Get
That's
the
the
Vanity
biggest
Fair
one.
party, and actually, I don't know if it still is, but the MSNBC party was considered one of the good ones too.
Yeah. Actually, no, the real ticket in town is the CNN brunch the day after, the hangover brunch. Apparently, from what I've been told.
And there's, do they still do that? The brunch the day of the Tammy Hadid? That one, yeah.
That's a vintage one. If anybody's ever gone and read This Town by Mark Leibovich, great book. Actually, describes it entirely perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't
know. A bunch
know.
of people trying to preen and like show off how
I'm not
cool
in these
and
circles
fancy they
anymore,
are.
so I truly have no idea.
Reaching back in my memory to remember what this
it's
is
a
all about.
fun view into how decrepit this town is. I will say this. I think that post-COVID and in the year 2022, it really is like Versailles-esque in the way that everybody is gathering, and it has no credibility, right? 10 years ago, it was actually a media-driven event and all of that, but now they're just trying to recreate some of that old magic, and the country really sees these people, I think, for what they are. So I don't think it carries nearly the amount of cachet.
I don't think so either. I mean, we've talked about it before. The best one was Colbert, George W. Bush.
Amazing.
I mean, that was an incredible, still like really stands up if you go back and watch it. And the other spectacle you're likely to have at this time is all of the fancy attendees unmasked and the servers masked up. You're very likely to see that divide. I mean, listen, I don't know for 100% sure, but we've certainly seen that in a lot of other fancy events.
Yeah,
so
very terrible.
Anyway, enjoy everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.